while the other type of sleep, the light sleep is coming upon you. There's two sockets where you can go into. One socket is death, and one socket is the socket to live. And this is how I always felt it, because sometimes I think they call that an alpha jerk. You can get an alpha jerk. An alpha jerk is when, have you ever felt as though, oh wow, I'm going into the wrong hole here, and you really feel funny. You feel that like that possibly is a hole to die. And the other side is to go ahead and sleep and get into your subconscious and whatnot and sleep, which we normally go into.
Well, good middle of the nightmare to you. I'm your host, Alexander T. Newport, your philobabulist extraordinaire, and this is the Al Newport Show. So, that clip there about alpha jerks. Have you ever had an alpha jerk? Did his description ring a bell with you? That clip was from a 1973 documentary about Jimi Hendrix. And I saw it in 1987. And as soon as I heard him make that statement that you've just heard, it rang a bell. And I went, fuck yeah. Yeah, I remember alpha jerks. I used to have them when I was a kid, and they seemed to stop happening right around about the age of 13 or so. I don't recall having them ever since then, but his description is just, it hits the nail on the head. That's exactly what it's like. You start to fall asleep, and as you fall asleep, it feels like you're falling down the wrong hole. And it feels very uncomfortable, and it just shocks you awake. It jerks you awake. It's you don't jerk awake because you've made a decision to jerk awake. It's like as you begin to sink, it becomes more and more uncomfortable, and it just, next thing you know, you jerk awake, and you go, what the fuck was that? And I never talked about it with anybody because I didn't know how to describe it, when I was a kid, but. And it did spook me out a little bit, because I didn't know what the fuck was going on. What is that? You're starting to fall asleep, and like he says, you get into that light stage of sleep as you're drifting ever and ever away, and next thing you know, you're drifting down, like he said, like it feels like you're drifting down the wrong hole, and it feels horrible in your stomach. It feels a sinking. It's a sinking kind of feeling, and it's just very indescribely uncomfortable, and next thing you know, you jerk awake. It only lasts a second, but it's very bizarre. And I would always think, what the fuck is that? Jesus Christ, how could I talk about this with anyone? How could I describe what's just happened? And I think I would just forget about it. But then boom, I was watching that Jimi Hendrix documentary, and that dude talking about it, and went boom. Thing is I had a lot of experiences when I was a kid that I couldn't explain to anybody, but that's a different video. So yeah, let me know if you've ever had an alpha jerk, what the hell you think it is. Not that it's important. I'm glad I don't have them anymore, but yeah, how bizarre. And he's the only dude I've ever heard talk about alpha jerks. I did a cursory bit of research on the internet to see if I could find anything out about alpha jerks, and I only come up with his video or references to his statement about alpha jerks. He was a musician, and I guess he played with Jimi Hendrix a few times in a studio or something. Maybe even did a few shows with him or something, I don't know, but he wasn't any kind of member of the band or anything, and I don't think he was any kind of regular. I think it's just he lived in New York, and Jimmy for I guess a few years definitely had his Electric Ladyland studios there and an apartment there, so maybe whenever he was there he hooked up with those guys. But yeah, there you go, alpha jerks. Let me know if you've ever had an alpha jerk and what the hell you think it is, and if you think you have a link to some more information about it. It is a very curious thing, though. It's a very curious thing, and even though it happened so long ago, I can remember it very easily. It's just a little moment of horror, and next thing you know, you jerk awake. Because it felt like he was sliding down the wrong hole. That's just so fucking weird. Oh, righty-ho. Be cool, fool.